All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Ed Parcaut, and I'm here with Donna Linder. She was on the radio last weekend, and we always have people come into the studio afterwards so they can go more in depth on what we talked about, because people don't realize when you're on radio, you only get about 18 minutes to talk, and that's not a lot of time. And we interrupt all the time. So you really had about, 12 minutes. So I want to get more in depth, especially since I got my ballot this weekend. Where is it at? And you're going to say, that's a sample ballot.
Yes, I am. That's your sample ballot with your voter information guide in it. People will find their candidate statements in there, but candidate statements are optional for the candidate. So if you are looking at a candidate and want information on them and it's not in there, they chose not to put something in there. So
do a lot of candidates choose not to do that?
It's yes. A lot of them do. If you look in your state guide, actually our governor chose not to put a statement in the state guide.
Because he's the governor.
Yeah.
That's why he doesn't need a statement.
But you can always Google the candidates, and most of them have a page somewhere.
All right. So I'm not going to get into all the stuff we talked about on the radio. People can go to the podcast. They can go back and look at that and listen to it. What I want to get into is, what are you running into that you want to get the information out to people?
We've had a lot of calls about congressional districts in Stanislaus County. Stanislaus County used to be one congressional district. Every 10 years, there is redistricting where they change the lines to make sure that representation is equal. Stanislaus County was split into 3 congressional districts. So if you get a ballot and it has a different congressional district than you're used to and different names, that's why our congressional districts were split, our assembly, everything changed, some of it just a little bit, some of it majorly. So we've had a lot of calls about that. Redistricting happened last summer, and so, or actually like January-ish, and so now you are voting in that new person. Your congressman is still the same until January, but in January, all those redistricting, you'll get that new person.
I guess that means people didn't vote in the primary. Right, because 16.5% of our county voted, which is hardly anything. Mm-hmm. So that's why they're like, we're how come my district's different? Because you didn't vote. How do you know somebody didn't vote when they ask, why is my district different?
Well, that would be a clue.
That's for me. That's for me to state that, not you. That's just me being me. I'm just saying all right. So you didn't vote in the last. That's the first thing I would have said. So you didn't vote last. This is why we have these issues. Anyway, move on. All right. So they want redistrict. All right. Yeah. So a lot of stuff has changed since the previous to the primary that we had back in March, right? That's when we had it. Seems like forever. June. That was all right. June. See, I told you, it seems like forever. So a lot of things have changed, and that's where you would have saw that those things have changed. Like there was a lot of district changes. I had a lot of people on the radio and lives and stuff, all the different people running for all the new districts, because people didn't have a clue that their district changed.
Correct.
Just like, and they still don't.
Correct.
So, all right. What else is people calling you about besides the fact that this is not a ballot?
Most people are actually calling and asking where their ballot is. Ballots were mailed, but you did have a postal holiday on Monday, so it did kind of slow our ballots down. The post office says give everything 7 days. I'm thinking people will start getting their ballots any day, today or tomorrow. And so they're on their way. And so you'll have those in the next day or so.
All right. And then they can start voting, right?
Correct. Our drop boxes are out all over the city. If you didn't get your little flyer that tells you where they are, or you can't find them in your voter information guide that you already have, that you've shown, then you can go to our website at stanvote.com, and it's interactive. It'll tell you the times and everything that they're there.
So it's stanvote.com, not stanvote.org.
Nope, stanvote.com.
Okay. Just double checking.
Mm-hmm.
Not picking. I just, it's some people will think it's the nonprofit.
No.
Or Govy. So it's big thing about all right. So this came up last time. I was down at there during the election that night, and somebody walked in at 8:10 with their ballot to drop off, and you guys can't take that, correct?
Correct. code is very specific. Ballots have to either be turned in to us or a vote center by 8 o'clock. You have to have voted by 8 o'clock. If you're in line still waiting to get a ballot to vote, then that's fine. But you
mean at like the polling places, right?
Right,
Okay.
at a vote center. But we can't accept it like over the counter. Now, if it's postmarked on election day, we can accept that the day after, actually up to 7 days after.
But it's the key right there is postmark. That doesn't
Postmarked.
mean you go to the things on the outside and drop it off at 5 o'clock, right?
No, the days of the post office being there at 5 o'clock and picking them up like they used to with our taxes. Now I date myself. They don't do that anymore. So they have pickup times on all their boxes. So just make sure you check those to ensure that your ballot's going to be postmarked.
Most important thing, if it's the day of, just go drop it off at the downtown or
Yeah, we have drop boxes all over the county, and they close at 8 o'clock also, but you have all day to get that into one of those drop boxes.
or just mail it in.
Yes, prior.
Right. Or take it to a Dropbox way before November 8th. That's when it is, right? November 8th.
November 8th is election day.
Yeah. So it's October 11th today. And you should get your ballot this week. If not, say that you get it on the 20th. That still gives you plenty of time to make your decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to say this as me being at Parcaut. If you don't know what you're voting for, don't check the box. Make sure you read up on what you're going to vote for. Make sure you understand what you're voting for, because yes, your vote counts drastically. And if you vote the wrong way, it counts also drastically that way. That's just because people don't read sometimes, and they just think because it says a certain thing and it's a tax, you vote no. Sometimes you need to vote yes. So if you don't understand that, you should understand that.
So that's a good point. So what if you did vote no and then you did read up on it and you wanted to vote yes? There is a way for you to fix that. You can fix that. You can either request another ballot if it's soon enough. So say you did it right now. You can mark the little box on your envelope that says that you need a new ballot because that one's damaged or spoiled, and we'll mail you a new ballot. And or you can put an X through the no that you voted and fill in the box for yes. And we will see that and call that voter intent and give you credit for the yes. Right. So there are ways to fix that if you
know now. But what if you mailed it in already?
Sorry, once it's mailed, your signature's checked and it's counted.
And all I'm saying is talk to people who are voting and say, hey, what do you know about this one? What do you know about this? Find out information before you vote on everything that's in here, because I'm sure it's a thick ballot. So I think there's a lot of things to vote on this time.
Yes. And if you're doing your research, you can Google things. On the ballot, if it's a nonpartisan office, it will not say what their party is. That's all things that have to be researched.
I would say DuckDuckGo it. But anyway.
And my office is neutral. So we cannot advise you.
Because I don't know, when I get ready for the Mike Douglas show that I fill in for occasionally, when I search topics, I'll search it through Google, and then I'll search it to DuckDuckGo, and it's amazing how many more things come up underneath there. Yeah. You can't say that you're public. I know. I'm just telling people. So you search everywhere what you're looking, not just in one place is what I'm getting at. Because you never know. There could be so much information on it that it's just further down.
Correct.
Yeah, whatever. Next. All right. What else is people calling in? Because this is not about for what we talked about already. I want you to make sure that you're clearing up things that people are calling in for.
This election, we haven't had a lot of calls lately. One thing people do ask is about do we actually check their signatures? We do. We check every signature on every envelope. But when we open them, then your name and signature are covered. So your vote is private. So that's very important. We want to make sure that your vote is protected and private. But we also have to check your signature to ensure that it was you that cast that ballot.
You know, that's so weird, because it's like, I understand why they separate it, because you're supposed to protect, so people, you don't know how people voted, but then you're like, was that really my ballot that went through? Because, the signatures on the outside, you guys verify the different signatures. I was there during the days and different times of the last election to see that. And you want to kind of go through the process of how you validate the signatures?
So when your ballot comes in, it is scanned, and we look at the signature on the ballot, and we have a first pass process that will look at your most recent registration signature. And then if that does not come close, where they do not feel comfortable that you sign that signature, then that moves on to upper level staff or management who have access to all the signatures on file from, times when you've registered, or maybe you've sent something in with your signature and we've captured it. Our staff is trained by an ex-FBI agent on how to look at your signature and compare them to your registration as far as what your envelope looks like. One thing that we do see most often that your signature won't match from is a lot of times that DMV signature, signing on that little cube thing, and then on a piece of paper, they just are not always the same. So,
but if it's been a while, say you lived in the same home for 20 years and you haven't done it in a while, it's probably better to re-register so they have the most accurate signature that you use today, correct?
Correct. If you have not registered in 20, 30 years, you might want to update your signature on file. And I would suggest that you do that by a paper affidavit, because if you re-register online, that signature that's pulled for that is your DMV signature.
So do the paper one. Because
Correct.
you could be like, you're getting older and you get your grandpa hands and your signature is not exactly like it used to be. And that's not negative. I'm getting older too. So things change, or I sign totally different than I used to.
Arthritis, or, you sign so often that you start
scribbling.
It changes, or you've shortened something or something like that.
Yeah. I signed so much for my mortgage company that it's like got to a point where it's like, that's my signature.
Mm-hmm.
Deal with it. Yeah. All right. So signature is always important. Now, when you're at the ballot where you go to I want to keep them polling stations, but they're not where you vote. Mm-hmm. Voting places, whatever.
A vote center.
Thank you. I just want to use the right term. If I go there and I go to vote there, do they verify my signature there?
You do sign a form, and they are looking at that with the most recent signature on file. And then what they're also looking for is to make sure that we have not already received a ballot for you, because everyone in Stanislaus County has been mailed a ballot. So they want to go back and double check that you haven't already sent that in. And then they can issue you a ballot to either put in an envelope or put through the scanner, and it's counted right then. One thing I should mention, those scanners are not hooked to anything except electricity. So they are not by Wi-Fi rays sending back those votes to us. On election night, those scanners are closed up and locked up. They're brought to our warehouse, and the little chip inside is then taken out and brought into the warehouse. It's sealed in there prior to that, and then we take it to the office and upload those votes. It prints out a receipt of how many votes are in it on election night when they close that down, and then they'll send that in, and we confirm and verify that.
Okay. Now, because I know a lot of people think that the machines are haunted. We'll just say that, are connected in, and people can go in and manipulate them. But what you're saying is, once they come out to the site, or before, they're not connected to any internet at all. They're just there to scan the documents, scan the stuff, and tabulate it, and then you take out the whatever you want to call it, chip, and bring that into the voting station secured. I saw these coming in last time, and that's what I was telling people. What I saw, there's no way to manipulate the vote once you guys have it.
Correct.
Because what I'm saying, because you could always, and please don't, they could go out and harvest and grab people's ballots and extra, all that kind of stuff. You can still do that, but we have no control. Once it gets in there, there's nobody changing it.
Correct.
Technically.
Correct. Those, they're drives. They're called a V drive. They're different than a thumb drive, but those thumb drives or V drives are taken out of the machines and brought in our office in sealed boxes with their scanned. Our scanners in the office that count all the vote by mail also are not connected to anything except they're in little pods, so they have a server and the electricity. When we send our results off to the Secretary of State, it's a totally separate computer and we actually key it in. We have a person reading it, a person keying in, a person verifying it, and then the Secretary of State calls and verifies it again. So none of the counting equipment is attached to anything except itself and the electricity.
Right. And I just want to bring this up because we talk about it on the radio, but this is all brand new equipment down there. You've changed out the whole system over the last year or so, right?
2019, we purchased all this new equipment. The Secretary of State at the time sent out something that if your equipment wasn't certified after a certain date, that it was no longer certified and our equipment was too old to participate in. So we had to quickly buy new equipment, learn it, set it up to have a November election in 2019.
Must have been fun that year.
It was my first year.
Yeah. Well, you did good. Right. All right. So that's all new. Everything's new. It makes it so much easier and you know what's going on at all times. And it's amazing when you can actually, I thought the best thing you did, I know that was amazing what you did there, but when you walk in there, you can actually have the screens on to see what people are looking at and what people are counting, you know, on the when you look in the room. And I like that because you could see what's going on. And it was like you said, it was like when you stood there, you were like, if I was voting, I'd want to see this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just makes it one step better for people to understand that there's full disclosure on everything that's going on.
Right. We think like voters because we are voters. And so my staff and I live in Stanislaus County. We are voters. A lot of our family live here. They're voters. So we want it to be the way we would want it as a voter. So when you walk into the lobby, if they're counting, a lot of times you can see it on the screen that points out because they all have dual monitors. So it's all transparent.
Good. I'm sorry. I was just looking at the ballot or the sample ballot. I apologize. I keep saying the wrong term there. Ballots aren't out yet. These are only the sample ballots. So you can see who, you know, pretty much running, which we all know that. And then I want to go back to you were saying you're all voters and you're not all one party, right?
No, we are not. We do not agree on a lot of things, but we don't talk politics in the office because we're neutral. When you come into the office, if you come in for something and they pull up your voter registration, the first thing they see on the screen is not your party. That takes some clicking and some changing of screens. So it isn't something that we're focused on in our office. But we know by our views that we are all different.
No, I just wanted to put that out there because everybody thinks that they're controlled by liberals. And
no.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that out there because people think
no,
like that.
We probably are.
We'll just move on. It doesn't matter.
50-50.
Well, the thing is, I say from all the radio and other stuff I do, from when I've talked to people, we're pretty much all in the middle. Democrats, Republicans, independents. They're just fringes on the outside that are the most loudest. And that's why we think there's more of them, but there's not. There's more of us. We just have to get along and stop fighting. Talk. Anyway, you don't have to agree. That's why you sit over there and just smile.
I'm neutral.
That's right. Even out of the office. Look at that while you're working. All right. What else haven't we talked about? Because I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here. You need to, all the different things that you're going to vote for, you need to know each one of them. Is there any one that you think is going to be an issue for people to understand or really should look hard at? Have you looked at any of this stuff and said the way this one is being put out there might be a problem for people?
I haven't. I do know on your propositions that you're going to want to read them carefully. Look at the pros and cons and the letters for and against. As far as I think the biggest thing that's holding people up right now is their congressional candidates. A lot of them have not heard of any of these people. So that's going to take some research. You'll want to look for their statements. You'll want to look for what they might have on a website to see what they represent. So those are what we're really hearing in the office is the most troublesome right now. Right. Congressional.
Yeah, because we've had some on the radio in the past, and recently we haven't had them a lot back on because it's like, okay, most people, and I could be wrong, are going to vote their party line on average. There's a few people in the middle who's going to look at each one, but we're like, okay, there's only one for each, or there's two Democrats for the same place. That's the issue. And what a lot of people don't realize is the people who caused the problem about having the top 2 people on the ballot were Republicans. And a lot of people think it was, Democrats, but it was Republicans, and people don't really understand that. Well, got to be careful for what you ask for, because it could come back and bite you.
Yeah, the top 2 was actually voted in by the voters. So, and it is not in every state. So California has chosen to do top 2, and you know,
And that was Schwarzenegger, if I remember right.
yeah,
They're rushing that through. I learned that the last time I was down there with you guys, when I was like, really? I couldn't believe it. So you're right. I researched it even, and they were rushing it through, and it came back to bite them. And I just mean them, because you really got to be careful when you're trying to do things, just in anything, just be careful. All right, move on. Next. All right. It's kind of I don't want to go on forever today, but usually, I just want people to understand there's a lot going on in this election. You must get out and vote. If you don't like what's going on, you can't complain if you're not voting.
So if you open the voter information guide, and my letter to the voters does explain that this is a very important election. You're going to vote in your state offices, your congressional, your Senate, your assembly. Our laws in California are created by our assembly and our Senate. And when I look historically in Stanislaus County, 53% of the voters turn out for this midterm election. That means half of our voters decide who makes our laws. It costs the same amount to put on an election, whether 20% of the people show up or 90%. I think I said this last time.
It's important to get out. That's why I didn't stop you.
Yeah. But we really, for us, we're spending the money, we're putting the effort in. We still have to make all the ballots. We still have to do all the same things. We'd rather have more people show up. So, their voices are really heard. We take the time to count every ballot, and we spend a lot of time making sure that we do that. And so we just want people to come out and vote.
Right. And, it's funny because you said last time your AB is from the assembly and your SB is from this, and I was like, oh, I never even thought about that. Yes, that is correct. I just knew there were a law that I didn't want, usually. And it's important because this is right now is you want to be involved locally, because that's who makes the changes locally. Yes, we have, and you also want to do the bigger ones too, but it's so important to vote for the local stuff and for the state. If you don't like the way certain things are in our area, if you don't vote, you're going to be stuck with what somebody else wanted, not what you wanted. So your vote will count. Now you were saying there was one on a radio show we're talking about that people say their vote doesn't count, and you were explaining a situation where it really did count.
Yes. So
with one vote, right?
Yeah. Even so I think I used Wyoming in their congressional district where they actually tied, but
and they flipped a coin,
and they pulled a ping pong ball.
Whatever.
But in Reno they usually pull a card. But we have had smaller districts have ties, and they have flipped coins to decide who's on the board. We had a race in 2020. It was a small, one of our smaller districts, but the first place person was, seated. They were in good shape. They were far ahead, but it was a vote for 2. And the second and third place person, they went back and forth the whole time we counted. It was, even we were kind of excited on pins and needles. Okay, now what vote will come in and what will happen? And they won by 1 vote. The second person won by 1 vote. So it does make a difference. It makes a difference, especially in your local offices. When we have even our board of supervisors, 150 votes separate sometimes the person who takes the seat and the person that didn't. 150 votes is really nothing for their whole district.
Yeah, it's very important to get out and vote. I've been saying this for as long as I remember. Last couple of years anyway. And it's so important, especially for women who didn't have the right to vote forever. And then now you do, and then you don't get out and vote.
Yeah.
I'm not picking on women.
No. When I first took office, it was the 100-year commemoration, and we did a whole pin on it. And we did a lot of talks about how, and there was a whole movie out, and, it was, a lot of sacrifice to get the right to vote for women, minorities. And, take hold of that right, make your voice heard. But there was a lot of people sacrificed a lot of things to make it happen.
Yes, it's so important. I mean, it can change the way things. I mean, it can change laws. It can change everything the way you want it to be if you actually get out and vote. Please, I'd love to see an 80% to 90% turnout this time. I don't even care if you vote the way I want you to vote. I just want you to get out and vote, because then everybody's stating what they want. And I don't like the harvesting, but if you can't beat them, join them. So if you're gonna, and I know you don't want to talk about that, but I'm just saying it's legal here in California. If other people are going to do it, how do you fight it? You got to do the same thing. So off the record, move on. All right. Last thing. All right. So this is anything else that we didn't talk about that we should talk about before you go? You can take a second on that. But anyway,
I feel like we don't talk in a how things roll, so I have to think.
That's fine. We didn't. We just went all over the place because
yeah.
I didn't go back to my script about this, and this. I just wanted it to be more open,
fluid.
Yeah.
So when you do receive your ballots this week, you should. Then you have 3 options to get those in. Our drop boxes are all over. That's like putting your hand from your hand to mine. Our staff pick those up. Our part-time staff go through county background checks. So they are, looking at your votes and picking up your ballots and things like that, but they don't touch them. They seal them up in a bag and bring them into the office to be processed. You can drop it in the mail. It's postage paid. You don't have to put a stamp on it. Or you can take it to a vote center, and they open October 29th. 6 of them throughout the county, and then the rest of them will open November 3rd. So you can vote on Saturday and have it done, and have Tuesday to just watch the results come in.
One thing I do like, I wanted to bring up, is the texting of my ballots coming out, or this is coming out, or you received it. That's really nice to see that is a process for people to see that where their ballot is and how it was turned in, and if it's been counted or not counted. Was that part of the new software and the new systems, or did you have that for a while?
That actually comes from the Secretary of State. They put our name on there.
Oh, really?
But when
they're tracking us, is what you're saying. Now I don't like it.
When you put your information into that, one thing I do want to say, and I think they've changed it where you have to confirm, but we did have a lot at the beginning where people put the wrong phone numbers in. And so then the wrong person was being texted.
Right.
So don't panic. Just check your phone numbers. Make sure you're putting the right phone number in so that you get the correct information when we receive your ballot. And it'll tell you when we have looked at your signature and if it was challenged or if we put that through.
All right, there you go. And if they haven't received their actual ballot by, let's say, the 20th, start calling your office.
Oh, yes.
Right. They should be getting it this weekend. And Donna loves you to call and ask her any questions at all.
You know what? That's very true. If you have a question about the process or a concern, and you can call, my staff will answer your questions. But if you want to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to any voter.
And that's great, because that's how it should be. So Donna, thank you so much for coming on the radio show and then doing this also. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
It was actually our pleasure. I should say my pleasure. All right, everybody else, thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Donna.